Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. So last week I made this high desk and now I need a stool to go with it. I made this stool for the workshop last year. It's too tall for what I need, but I can use it as reference to get the dimensions for the top. I'm going to make it out of the same 3x2 material, so I set up a stop and get all the bits cut down for the top. To make the seat a little more comfortable, I want it to have a curve, so I've got one of these flexible rulers and I use that to draw out the shape I want. I take the first bit of wood to the bandsaw and get it cut out along that line. With the first bit cut, I can use it as a template to mark out all the other pieces. If you had a nice big bandsaw, you could glue these all up and cut them out in one go. But for me, I'm going to have to make the cut 5 times. I want the seat to have a backrest to it, so I'm going to cut some more pieces down, and this time I'm going to make them slightly longer. I'm only going to make the back 3 pieces high. I can trace out the same curve and get it cut out on those. With all the cuts made, I can now get it glued up, so I just use some PVA wood glue to get the seat and the back glued and clamped together. When the glue's set, clamps off and it's time for sanding, so I've got one of these spongy interface pads. This should help with sanding a concave surface. Like normal, there's a link down below to the tools I use and where you can get these from. So with the part sanded, I need to join these 2 bits together, but as they're curved, I need to trace out this line and get that cut so the 2 bits will match up. So it's back to the bandsaw to get this cut done. So I made the back wider than the seat. I want it to line up at the base and then taper out to the top, so I get that marked out and the cut made. I give these cuts a quick clean up and now it's time to get it put together. I'm going to glue and screw the 2 parts together. So first I drill some countersunk holes and then I'm going to come back and plug them later. Now I'm making this all out of very cheap material and it's a great way to experiment with designs, and I would like to come back and make this maybe out of walnut another time, and if I was to do it again I probably wouldn't screw it together, I'd probably use some dowels and I think that'd be stronger. But that's why it's great to prototype, you always learn a lot doing it. So that's the seat bit kind of done, so now we need to make a base. I'm going to use the same material, but first I want to square it up and get rid of those rounded off edges. So I get 2 sides planed and then set the machine up and get a 3rd side thicknessed. I set the fence to the thickness of the material and now I can rip it down, making it square. I want the legs to be splayed slightly, so they need a 5-degree angle cut on the bottom. With the angle cut, I lay it out, work out how tall I want the stool to be, and then I can mark out the corresponding 5mm angle at the top. I find laying it out like that really helpful, rather than trying to get my head around the angles. So with the first one cut, I can set up a stop and get the other 3 legs done. The front and back legs need a support going across, which is going to be a nice height to put your feet on. Mark out where it wants to start, and then I'm using the same material, so I mark out where I'm going to need to cut. I swap back out to my 5mm grooving blade. This seems to be getting so much use at the moment. I raise the blade to half the thickness of the material. Then I set my mitre gauge to 5 degrees. This will be the first time I've used it for anything apart from a 90-degree cut. I can then set up a stop along the fence where the start of the cut needs to go. I can then set up a second stop on the mitre fence where the end of the cut needs to go. With those two cuts made, it's just a question of nibbling away all the material in between. I had to change to 5 degrees the other way to do the other legs, so each leg is tilted opposite way to each other. With the slots in the legs cut, then I need to cut the supports, which are going to be the footrests, to go into those slots. So these just get half the material removed at either end, and these need to be cut at the same 5-degree angles. And I need to set the gauge back to 90 degrees to make some more cuts. To join the sloping front and back legs together, they need more grooves, and these are just going to be at 90 degrees, and then some corresponding pieces to go in, also cut at 90 degrees. It's really hard to explain, or maybe I'm just doing a terrible job of explaining it, but hopefully you'll see what I mean. I'm going to have 2 pairs of legs like this, and as you can see, they taper inwards towards the top at 5 degrees. So I get them glued up and clamped up and leave to dry. Whilst I'm waiting for that glue to go off, I can keep working on the seat, so I cut some plugs to go in those holes. Everyone always tells me I can use a bandsaw to do this, and I do if I need to cut out loads, but as I only needed 4, a screwdriver is much quicker. So I get them popped out, and then I can get them glued into the bottom of the seat. I used a pull saw to cut the plugs flush, and then I could give it all a sand down. Now with the desk, I stained the base black and the top I left pine, so I want to do this the other way around. So I'm staining this black with some India ink. So now the glue's dried on these frames and they need attaching together, and hopefully you can see these are actually going to be parallel to each other at 90 degrees. So I get some more glue on, clamped up, and then leave the whole thing to dry. I want to reinforce all these joints, so I'm going to do it by pinning them with some dowels. They will add strength, but I also like the look of them, so I get all the pieces cut on the bandsaw. Now I just need to drill through the centre of all these joints and get these glued into place. After I got the bottom ones in, I got the same done on the top, and by now I'd remembered I had a drill guide. When the glue had set, I could trim off any excess on the dowels, and I'd left a lot of the joints long as well, so I could cut them flush. Then I could give it all a sand and see how terrible most of my joinery was. A few of the joints could definitely have been neater, so I mixed up some sawdust and a bit of PVA wood glue and got it spread into any of the little cracks. As I say, this is a prototype. It's better to mess up on pine than it is on walnut. I toyed with different ideas of attaching the top. I'm going to have a go at using dowels, so I'm going to use the drill guide and this collar on the drill to set the depth. I can then get the hole drilled in the centre of each of the legs. I get these little centre point markers into each of the hole, and then I can get the stool top put on and pushed down. This leaves 4 little indentations on the bottom of the seat, and then I can use the drill guide again to drill out these holes. I get some wood glue on and get the dowels pushed into place. Now the seat just needs to be lined up and pushed down onto the dowels. It really needed pushing down into place, so I thought what better way of doing it than to sit on it. I can now use some of these new long clamps I've got and leave it to dry. So I'm sure you all saw this coming anyway, but I'm doing the same as before and finishing it with Danish oil. And that's it all done. Now I've got a nice height stool to go with my high desk, and I can look out over my workshop as I work. I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out, and I'm quite keen to have another go making it, but this time out of hardwood. Thanks for watching, thanks to my Patreons, and please subscribe for more videos.